What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what is really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid's down 3.41%, 211 the low, 221 the high. You are seeing a good amount of volume though, so 137 mil for that. 139 is the average. Of that 139, you are seeing a lot of institutional transactions, so that's always very welcomed. So most recently, a string of buying as well first thing, string of selling that kind of brought it down. So it's kind of all over the place, but definitely good to see a lot more institutional transactions. On a side note, you probably should see more over the next couple trading days as well, because Q2 does conclude in a couple days, so a lot of institutions will be rebalancing. And Lucid's stock performance in comparison to kind of the average stock has been crap. So of course, you do need to be buying more Lucid, if that kind of makes sense as far as for rebalancing purposes. Aside from that though, dark pool transactions, you're seeing not really much going on for that. And so that does kind of match with shorts. So shorts aren't really doing all too much, increasing 644,000 shares, 32.22% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 397 mil. And so ultimately, if they do continue on to this trajectory, we should be seeing all-time high short interest early next week. So if you believe in a squeeze play, then that might be beneficial. One thing I do want to bring up though is through here you do see 0 shares available to be shorted. So potentially that might be something to kind of keep in mind if again you believe that there's a squeeze opportunity. Shorts are rather overextended. So in some cases you could see some buying coming from big money, BlackRock, Vanguard, and so forth, as they will typically like to buy just to lend out. It's not that good for, of course, the stock, but it's very profitable for them. So nonetheless, though, you should see a certain level of buying over the next couple trading days. Moving over to the data points today, PCE and Michigan consumer sentiment. So Michigan consumer sentiment came in at 60.7, forecast of 60.5. PCE month over month came in flat, year over year came in a little bit hotter, so 2.3 versus 2.2. Both inflationary data points, so that's again something a hot topic for the broader market. But nonetheless, as what Powell mentioned, he's rather looking at labor data, and so that's going to be that kryptonite in order to prompt a rate cut in the future. So let me know your general thoughts on that. As far as early this morning, we did have FOMO in the broader market, and we did get some further clarity as far as between China and the States, because at 2 p.m. yesterday, Trump just randomly tweeted saying that we signed a deal with China. No context, no elaboration, nothing. Kind of weird. But nonetheless, though, we did get some further clarifying details. So it looks as though that the States is doing a 30% on China and China's doing a 10% on the States. This alone should have really pushed the market substantially higher, but I think the market's just caught up in its own just FOMO, disregarding logic in some cases. Up until recently, there was one thing that just came out that's causing a certain level of uncertainty. But I think in reality, we didn't get any clarifying details on the rare earth minerals. And so that's something that China has stopped exporting to the States. And as of even what Mark mentioned, that is potentially contributing to the not really ramping up as fast as we would have liked, right? So he mentioned, I think it was tariffs, rare earth minerals. So I think at the end of the day, that's going to be something that Lucid really does need to work on, and hopefully Trump does have that in the works with China, but we haven't really seen all too much associated to that. Moving on from that though, we just had this. So this is causing a certain level of uncertainty, and this will really impact Lucid's margins, as what Mark has previously mentioned. So Trump did state, Canada is difficult to deal with. We are terminating all trade discussions with them, and we'll let them know our tariff rate in 7 days. So ultimately, Mark mentioned that this, just trading within Canada and obviously the metals and whatever else that Lucid does require, that would hit their margin by 10 to 15%. So it is fair to assume that this, again, will really impact Lucid. So not necessarily the best, unfortunately. Aside from that, nothing really coming out from Lucid, no SEC filings or anything like that. This was posted by Lucid Oasis recently, so it looks like just the official EPA for the Gravity 2025 Grand Touring. So in reality, maybe this could have attributed to failing to ramp up. Maybe they were pending this, even though coming from a EV standpoint, it is pretty much just a rubber stamp, just like, yes, easy, you passed, because EPA is for emissions. And in case you do not know, EVs don't necessarily have any emissions. So this is just more of a stupid formality for EVs. Most likely what Lucid was waiting on is just the transition time. I do believe, I did a little bit of research in the past, and I think it normally should take like 3 weeks at max once submitting for it to be approved. But ultimately, I think lately it's been like 4 months. So maybe that's what took this so long, and maybe why it's also attributing to kind of failing to ramp up significantly, of course. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Moving over to the options, 971,000 in calls, 2.04 in puts, 67% of all the options being done are neutral in nature. And I think the reason why it is still considered as neutral is because of the spread. And so ultimately, I think just based on these volumes, so 1 million in premiums between 9 and 905. And so this is why it's probably being seen as neutral, because it's not really orienting towards the bid or the ask. Based on this volume, it's eating up everything. So system doesn't necessarily know if it's bullish or bearish, but as I've brought up, I think you can tell a lot of them are actually bearish in nature. So this one right here, you do have November 21st, 2025, and also July 18th, 2025, $2 put. So at the end of the day, big money, in my opinion, is still assuming that it is going to continue to trend down sub $2, and they paid roughly, looks like 6 cents, 36. So we'll have to wait and see how things do play out, but looks like big money is kind of betting on Lucid going down a little bit. From the bulls, you see a consensus for it to be above 250 over the next couple of weeks. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 2. So it looks as though it transitioned from $2.50 to $2. With today being Friday though, just take note of the open interest. You have 2,000 at that 2, 23,000 at the 250. With where it is now, you're going to have 2,000 in the money. That's not going to cause any bump up in the stock price or anything like that. But with it right now at 211, it is trading between this S1 and this S2. So 199 is going to be a strong support. And then that's on a side note, what pretty much the 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗃 Technicals is somewhat projecting. As far as the flip side, 218 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. So it is unfortunate to see Lucid really just go down like this as fast as it is. But it's, like I said, I think the ball's in Lucid's court to really put out some substantial news. As far as on the actual chart, there's absolutely nothing really positive to bring up. It's below all the key pivotal moving averages. Stochastic RSI is considered kind of neutral / a little bit overbought. So that is attributing to today's pullback. So all in all, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. What's your viewpoint on, for instance, these tariffs? So I really hope that we don't start hearing tariffs being kind of a common word every single day by Trump, because market hates that. And potentially that could, dependent on how things play out, could really escalate just the level of uncertainty in the market. So let me know your viewpoint. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Hopefully everyone had a good week. Give yourself a shout out if you have been buying though, or what you've been doing with Lucid. Have you been doing options? What's your kind of general thoughts on everything? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon and give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.